The craziness of the cats.
Yes, very entertaining though, for sure.
Absolutely. Especially when they show up in a
So,
podcast.
yeah, I'm sure she will. That's her job. She likes your voice.
Yes.
Hello, this is WGSN Going Solo Network Radio, TV, and podcast #1 internet singles talk network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine. We're back again.
It's such a treat to talk to you. I look forward to talking to you every week.
Yeah, likewise. It's so much
Well,
fun.
thank you.
Yes.
So today, this is really a fun from the male and female point of view. We're going to talk about how a man can help a woman feel safe. And what I'd really like to start the show out with is I'm going to tell my Allison Armstrong story because it's been such a fun surprise to men when they've heard the story. So I have a very longtime friend who's a male, and he's as big a fan, and he had gone to one of Allison Armstrong's seminars up by the Los Angeles LAX airport, which can be kind of a sketchy area, especially late at night or in the evening time after dark. So the ballroom's full, and Allison comes out, and one of the first things she says to these like 400 people, and pretty much it was 200 men and 200 women, she said, "Raise your hand if you were at all concerned about walking from the parking." Fuck.
Say what?
We're so sorry.
What happened?
I thought it blinked out. It went dark, and I swore. So sorry, Stacey.
No, so the block came out of your computer?
No, I checked. There was no reason for it to do that. That was so weird.
Okay.
Also, I laughed a lot last night, and it turns out I have a froggy throat. I feel fine. Thank goodness.
Oh. So anyway,
we're back to the ballroom by Los Angeles Airport. And there's 400 people in the ballroom, and there's 200 men about and 200 women. And Allison Armstrong comes out, hello. And the first thing she asked was, raise your hand if you were at all concerned walking from the parking garage into the hotel ballroom. And every woman raised their hand. And every man looked around completely confused, like concerned about walking. And you were? I mean, first they're like, I wasn't, wouldn't even have thought about it for a second. And 200 hands are saying they were. So men, because this is not how you live, yes, you scan the perimeters. Yes, you're always looking. And a lot of it's, if you're with a woman, is to keep us safe.
Right.
You don't approach the world in the same
tentative
way. Yes, tentative, on the defense, on guard, which is appropriate. I mean, I tell women, take self-defense, take, some sort of martial art, so that at least you'll carry pepper spray, so that at least you feel a little more confident. But the thing that I wanted to point out is when we start out with the topic of how can a man make a woman feel safe, you're like, they need to feel safe from what? Because you're going to say, I know I'm a good guy. I know I'm trustworthy. Why would she think I'm not safe? And the big paintbrush that I really don't allow very often, but I am going to paint this one, you have a Y chromosome. So we need to automatically think, are they safe? Am I safe walking to my car from the grocery store? When I was going to Fullerton Junior College here, one of the students in my class had a boyfriend in the wrestling group class, and they practiced at night, and they would assign people to walk us to our car.
Nice.
And not that anything happened, but I think that's part of the reason nothing happened, because we were being proactive about it. So I am never going to say all men are scary. Most men are lovely. There are a few scary people, but we don't know. So we need, as women, to be on our guard. And I'm sorry, it puts you at a little bit of a deficit, because you're going to have to do a little bit more to make us feel safe, because 200 women in this ballroom, not one didn't put their hand up. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about this as Mr. Y chromosome on this podcast.
Well, first of all, I have a strong suspicion I was at that event, because Allison Armstrong doesn't do events in LA very often. And I was at an event that was in January, several years ago. There wasn't an airport hotel by LAX. So I got a feeling I was in that room. So, and there were some other stories about that event I can talk about another time.
Yeah.
But the thing you said, and I want to make sure that we make this clear, because I want to make this point from the perspective of the male going, okay, now I understand that, is first of all, because the thing is, the title isn't what you think it is. People, because what you're saying is, how can a man help a woman feel safe? The thing is, it doesn't say how a man can help a woman feel safe with him.
No.
That's the key, because what I'm realizing what you said and really brought it back to me, because I didn't catch that first of all. But hang on a second, is yes, first of all, there is the need for us men to make our women we're courting and dating, especially meeting for the first time, feel safe with us. And on top of that, another level, which you mentioned, which I want to make sure people get that point clearly, is that it's not just that, it's also that us men helping women that we care about, or any woman, frankly, feel safe in the world around her.
Yep.
In the parking lots, at the grocery stores, after, at night, after a movie, whatever that is. Because the thing is that I won't say don't realize it, but we tend not to think about that, because, as you said so clearly, it's like for us, we just look around. Yeah, we do perimeter checks for ourselves because we just want to be aware. It's like we watch where traffic is and was that radar going off. But we're doing it purely out of a tactical perspective versus a safety perspective for the women around us.
Good point. Such an important difference. There's a huge difference in that.
Right.
Such a huge difference. Yep.
So I want to make sure that point was underscored, because when you said it, one was going, did everyone else hear what I heard? To make sure that we did it for that point. Because yes, we're definitely going to talk about how a man can be a safe partner for a woman. But the thing about recognizing that in the world in general, women have felt less than safe just in the environments they're in. And so what we can do as men, whether we're their partner or not, to contribute to their safety or make them feel more supported in feeling safe.
Yep.
So that's two areas we can play with in this conversation for sure.
And accept it as your responsibility, your gift to us. So it's funny, it came up in a conversation in the last week or so about how women can be receptive to men doing polite things. And one of the things I brought up was the walking on the outside of a sidewalk next to the street. And they're like, why? And I said, because if something happens, a car gets too close, or there's an accident, or even the mud gets splattered, they'd rather it hit them first. They are there as a protector. And you walk on a sidewalk by yourself as a woman, you're in charge of your protection. How nice to have somebody else, in addition, wants to take care, wants to provide. And the thing I'm going to keep harping on with that particular point is when women go, well, but I can do it myself. And I go, do you want to really? And nobody in over 50, in my estimation, has enough. The women do not have enough estrogen. The men do not have enough testosterone. So if you let him be a he-man and stand on the outside when he's walking and he gets to be a protective, he gets a shot of testosterone. And if you consciously go, look what he's doing for me, I'm allowing this to happen, I'm going to be receptive, you get a shot of estrogen. So if you just do it for that reason, even I think the feminists could get behind that, right? I try to come at it at all the angles so that I get less negative comments about why we can't do that.
Right.
Same with opening doors.
Oh yeah. Is that it's funny. I mean, the whole thing, and I posted this many times on social media over the years about how chivalry is not dead, but it's very endangered. Because the thing is, chivalry is one of those things, and that thing about walking on the outside of a woman, like walking close to the street, is an act of chivalry. It is a protective desire to make sure she feels less exposed and less vulnerable. Which is the ideal. But of course, there are always exceptions to the rules about what you're passing, what buildings you're passing, and stuff like that too. But the idea of opening the doors, opening the car door for her, to help her with a chair, those senses of chivalry and action are really meant as an indication that we are, as men, respecting women. Not that we think she can't do things. It's the other part. It's the other thing comes up a lot about, opening the doors for women. When women like, I can open it myself. It's like, I know you can, but I do it out of a sign of respect and reverence for you, not because I think you can't do it.
Yes.
So, ladies listening, hope you get that point too. We're dropping lots of points today.
Yes, and I'm going to say again, we're allowing you
Yes.
We allow you to open the door. We allow you to walk on the outside. We allow you to help us with our coat and our chair. We're being receptive to you being a gentleman, to being chivalrous, to providing. Gosh, we do so much in the world as women, and we get exhausted and overwhelmed daily, if not hourly. How nice if somebody else wants to do something for us that we don't have to do ourselves. I mean, that's really a helpful way to look at it when I'm trying to ease somebody in that's very adamant about, I can do it myself.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And that is, I mean, I know it's part of my English roots, I guess, in the sense of that I just think it's normal I should be doing that. But it is interesting, and we talked about this before about how much some American men, not all, but some American men, be so oblivious to their role in partnership, where they could be chivalrous and caring and generating more trustworthiness, which is what it really is. That can be done that way. Yes, there are other areas of relationship where we go much deeper about how trust can be violated or structured that chivalry won't even touch. But we're starting at the surface levels here, the simple things on the external outer world that allow for the interaction between men and women to be more complementary of each other, but also that then for a woman lets her feel like she can actually let her guard down to a degree. And that's the other part for men when we are around women, especially when we're attracted to, is we don't want to add any levels of concern, fear, panic to her already increased alarm system. We want to be able to let her reduce that. So our level of trustworthiness that doesn't necessarily feel like it's the sexiest thing to do is actually much sexier.
Very funny. You know, I've said it out loud more than once on this podcast. Good manners make me hot. I mean, it is a way to my heart. Good manners.
Right.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the other thing that I need to really impress to women is the women that we haven't talked to yet, who say, I can open my own door and I can get my own code. And why are you walking on the outside of the cement or the sidewalk? It's happened to a lot of men more than once.
Yeah.
So now they're hesitant because they want us to feel safe. They want us to think they're good guys. They want us to think that you're doing the right thing, being your best self. And if enough women, which it doesn't take a lot, have said no, now you're like, well, should I do it for the next person or not? And instead of just moving forward and doing it because it's your natural instinct, you're going to hesitate and think about it. So women like me who like it, I make it very well known. I slow down. Gosh, I love having a door opened by a handsome man. Thank you for doing that. Thanks for opening my door. Wow, I really appreciate you helping me with my chair. Stand there and say it out loud. And they go, oh, okay. Not only am I going to want to do this for her, and she says it's okay, she looks pretty happy about it. And I will always say thank you. So I'm trying as fast as I can to make up for the women that have had really negative impressions on men. Look I love how you look so pained because it's sad.
And thank you for that, by the way, for your service that way. Because
good.
that's the thing is that in some ways there's kind of this thing where it's expected, and that becomes a whole issue because people either forget or don't do it, and then becomes a whole judgment and resentment and other things too. So putting out the invitation and the encouragement for him to become more of a gentleman, even if he was going to do it anyway, or if he forgot he was going to do it. Yeah. Either way, it's like he gets to cover up his error of choice, so to speak. Yeah. So when you do invite him, encourage him, he does do the thing you've asked him to do for you, so you can feel safer and more comfortable, and you can trust him more. Then the funny thing is that yes, he does remember that because he knows it's brownie points for him. It's worth doing. He's not doing it because he wants to do it. He's doing it because he knows his benefits from it.
For sure.
So it's like his own self-esteem increases too.
Very much. That whole shot of testosterone.
Oh, yeah,
very good for you.
Look what I did. I made her happy, that sort of thing.
Because it's such a high priority for you men.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want us to already be a happy person. I'm going to say this out loud for both people. Generally, if you have a full, interesting, fun life, then how great that somebody else can come and make it even better. And that's really what we hope, that somebody can make it even better for you. So we want them to now say, oh, I am going to make sure that I'm going to do things that make you happy, but you need to tell me what that is. Please tell me what it is. I need to know what it is so that you can now be a part of this together, that you don't feel like you're at opposition. You don't feel like you're pulling back and forth from each other. So it's so, I keep putting the onus back on women because I am one that stand there, stand at the door and say, I really like it when men open the door for me, or stand at the car, or say something ahead of time.
Well, this is the thing, is that there are women who will do that but won't say anything. They'll stand there expecting the man. And this is the thing. So that's why I love what you're saying it this way, because I want to make sure, and not say that to let us off the hook, but the actual action of expecting us men to do something for the woman. Sometimes it isn't something obvious to us. For strangers, I don't want to say that we're oblivious, but it doesn't hurt to remind us. So if you are waiting for us to pull the chair back for you or to open the door for you, if you do, like you said earlier, like if you say how nice it is when a man does that for me, sort of thing, it still works for us. I mean, we don't mind the encouragement. It's not like we're being looked at and saying we did something wrong or we forgot to do something. Yeah. It's because it's not framed as, you've got to open the door for me. It's framed as, I love it when you do. Mm-hmm. So it's a very pain-free experience for both partners.
Yes.
So that's why I'm definitely underscoring what you said is so important, because it's such a gift to have that encouragement that then we can do. Yes, obviously when we remember to do it and we do it automatically, or we know how to do it, we do that. It's great. But having the invitation or the encouragement on top of that isn't a bad thing.
And then the thank you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because I've had women tell me, well, I did that. I go, really? What? Before we started coaching, we're just having a conversation. And I said, well, what did you do? I stood there. Uh-huh. And what did you say? Nothing. And I don't remember being taught it. I just remember knowing it and believing it like it's a fact that you all can read our minds. I knew it. It was a fact. Yep. It's the weirdest thing that every woman knows this, like it's a fact. And I don't really remember anybody teaching it to me. It must be a thing that we're born with. It's pretty sad. So no, you can't read our minds. And nope. I believed when I was married the first time that if I said it, screamed it loud enough in my head, it would somehow get amplified out my ear or something. I didn't think I needed to ask, because it didn't matter as much if I asked for it. I wanted him to think of it on his own. If he cared enough about me, he would just know what I needed.
That is the thing right there. So many women get their what's it's in a twist, because they get upset. I'll be polite, because they are in the thing is that if he loved me, he would. Dangerous statement to make to yourself, because you then put the category of love as conditional, first of all, and make sure that the love is dependent upon certain actions. And that is those are ingredients. Those are recipes for disaster in a relationship, because they will create more stress, more separation, more looking for things that don't work in the relationship for it to fail.
Yes.
So to take that framing out of the conversation entirely, take the language out of the conversation entirely, and don't make it, if he loved me, he would. Same thing for men too. If she loved me, she would. It's like those are dangerous things to say, because it creates a whole level of conditions and opportunities for distrust. And
very much. And it's very unfair to get mad at somebody for doing or not doing something they didn't know they were supposed to do or not do. It is so unfair. Well, how come last night you didn't open the door for me? Really? What door? What door was I supposed to open? I would have. What door was it? Instead of at the time saying, it would make me so happy if you opened this door for me. And wait and smile and look lovely while you do it. And then please say thank you after they do it. I did this. I did it. I apologize to any man I did this to, because I know I did it to a bunch of them, and before I knew better, because we just don't know better. We just don't.
So it's one of those keys, really.
Other way that to help a woman feel safe, if we talk about somebody brand new, because we so need to talk about in relationships too.
Yes, indeed.
Is I tell women, please talk to men in the stores and the gas stations. Walk right up to them. strike up a conversation. Why did you buy that kind of beat? Or why did you buy that kind of car? What made you, what part of is that uniform, that shirt or something? I mean, they think it's true. I mean, they're probably thinking about nothing or one thing, and it'll take them a moment to focus on it. They're like, oh, a woman's talking to me. They have nothing but positive feelings about it. Really.
Right.
I mean, unless they're in some huge hurry or had a fight with their wife or something, but mostly they're really happy. So happy. So different for women. We need you to let us see you coming. We need you to make a noise when you're kind of far away. Clear your throat. Tap something so that we can now focus. Oh, okay, there's a Y chromosome person coming towards me. Smile. And then ask us a question. Ask us for help. But you can't just appear. Women can appear out of nowhere. And we'll decide in a second it's not a problem. We're going to go. And so the sad thing is you're starting out with a negative because we're concerned for no good reason except that you just suddenly appeared. We have to now assess, are you an okay person? Oh, yeah, where I'm in public. Oh, yeah, he's smiling. That's a lot of work that is unnecessary if you would just let us know ahead of time that you're about 2 feet away and you just make a noise. And we'll go, oh, cute guy. He's smiling at me. Oh, I could talk to him. And then you start out with a positive.
Well, I've had to learn that lesson myself. That's the thing I've done a few times now, where I vividly remember where basically, because I was behind a woman I was going to talk to, and I basically intentionally made a noise or moved to the side so she could see me coming in versus walking up behind her. Because it's like if it's somebody I'm in a relationship with, and that's when it can be fun to play with.
Oh,
but
yeah.
with even with friends of mine, I've had them like jump or become nervous around me, even though we know each other, because that positioning of being behind them, out of sight, out of sound, where they don't know I'm there, the shock to the system, because as I said way back at the beginning, how women feel safe coming from the parking lot into the hotel. The same thing is true because there's this constant feeling of the hackles rising. Like women, I think probably have more exposure and experience of feeling that level of that unsettled feeling that we don't necessarily feel as men. So I've definitely experienced where I've learned and had to remember that when I talk to a woman, it's like either talk ahead of me getting to her so she knows I'm coming, sort of thing, or position myself where she can see me ahead of time, because it is something that I have become vividly aware of. And yes, because I do a lot of work with women, and I'm very much in support of women, of the things that I notice women deal with energetically that I don't feel.
And that is such an evolved thing. If a man's willing to learn that I have never felt this way in my life, it wouldn't even have entered my brain. So you get a pass. Like Maya Angelou, we did best what we knew then, and now that we know better, we do better. And then men in general need to do this. And you're a big guy. You're tall, and your shoulders are broad. So you're even more imposing. So being extra diligent about making a noise before you approach somebody, even though you know them, it's such a gift for both of you. Our adrenaline about seeing you, we're happy, but not our afraid. Not our fight or flight doesn't kick in. And you start out with the very first reaction is, oh, it's Barry, instead of, oh, it's a person. Oh, it's Barry. So I want you to start out with the best chance of having us be so receptive, because receptivity is the way that men and women get close.
Absolutely.
We need to feel receptive, and safety is the number one thing. It's the number one thing. I will say it forever. If we don't trust you, so we can get into relationships too. So if we don't trust you when we first met you, and we don't trust you in a relationship, the first thing we do as women is we pull back physically. We stop talking to you. We stop wanting to be touched. We certainly don't want to have sex with you. I mean, that is the most vulnerable thing we can do with you. So when men are like, really, that's what makes you feel unsafe? It's important to pay attention to it and how to make us feel safer, because we don't always even know. I think the women hadn't thought about in that seminar how concerned they were walking from their car. They didn't consciously, they just do it. But now when they looked around and they're like, oh yeah, everybody was concerned. And they were more conscious of it, which also made the guys more conscious of it. But if we're not conscious of it, we're constantly walking around possibly getting upset with you or being concerned with you or being alerted in a way that feels negative instead of positive. So if both sides can say, oh, this is what I need and want, and you can say, oh, sure, I can give that, or you know ahead of time without, because this is a new person, that you know what makes us feel more comfortable. You just proactively do it because you have to think about it because it's not your normal way.
Right.
Yeah.
It is something that is, I mean, as we said through the whole show to this point, is recognizing that we function differently, we think differently, we act differently. So for us men, part of the helping a woman feel safe is to recognize that she's not by default feeling safe. Even though we don't feel any different either way ourselves, but to simply entertain that idea, to expand our bubble, so to speak, to witness and be aware of the women around us who don't feel safe for different reasons that aren't anything to do with us necessarily.
Mm-mm.
So whatever we can do to promote safety, meaning that we can do things that create receptivity in them, that we are somebody they can trust, that somebody that we will protect them, not necessarily like we're going to fight the dragon necessarily,
Necessarily.
but that at least we take care of things and we are witnessing. So that way, if we notice something, we let her know that we see something or we notice something, so she knows, okay, he's on the ball, he's aware,
Yes.
he's observing.
Yes.
That's a piece too.
Yes.
So that's the thing as well, is it's not so much, it's almost like looking through the lens the same way a woman does, but it's also the same things like noticing, you know, where there's more space in traffic, where there's some darkened areas where it's not lit as well, to think the way that we need to if we were her Secret Service detail.
Yeah.
You know, there's some part of us that has that innate, and I think a lot of men, it's that sort of feeling of like, oh, I can step into that role. So it's being more aware, more present to the environments and circumstances that for us would not bother us, but to her makes her feel nervous. So we can create a level of protection for her in that space, so to speak.
Oh, I love the whole idea of having a detail. I think that's like the coolest thing ever. And like one of the things I really like, if it's somebody that I'm actually dating, especially, is that hand on the small of my back.
Mm-hmm.
Just letting you know I'm here, hun. I'm sure nothing's going to happen, but I've literally and figuratively got your back. I love that feeling. It's such a comforting, centered, and not like I'm not carrying you, I'm not pushing you. I'm just letting you know I'm here. If you need anything, I am at the ready. I'm at alert. I'm at your disposal. Oh my God. I mean, how cool is that for both people? And the other thing I tell women is, you know, if you've met somebody, you know, and you've had coffee or lunch and you're going to go for a walk, put your arm through his.
Mm-hmm.
I like that better than holding hands because I want a nice, solid arm. I want to see how that feels to have some contact with him. Is he going to hold his arm in a nice, firm way so that if, you know, especially if I'm wearing heels, if something happens with an uneven ground, he's right there. He's right there. And it's what I always tease with the bride and grooms when I did weddings for 25 years. I said, you're in these nice flat shoes. She's got heels. You got her here. You just let her have your solid arm for that walk down, her dad, the walk down the aisle. And the dads would just puff up with this job that they had as they were going to give away their daughter.
Yeah.
And I think it helped him even smile more because he's not treating her anything less than, he's elevating her. That if you can really see it's an elevation, women would get over themselves, I think, better than they are right now.
Indeed. Yeah.
Getting that thing in a twist that you mentioned earlier. Yes.
Yes. And that is the thing is, there's one caveat though about the smaller the back piece.
Yeah.
You've got to have an established relationship with it.
That's why I say people I'm dating.
Yeah. Because the thing is, I know women have said in circles I've taught about how they don't feel safe with a man who does that out the gate.
Oh yeah, no.
That asks permission first.
Yeah.
Because it's something. So it's also earned respect and earned trust as well. Just to be clear.
I'm glad because I did say if I'm in a relationship, but I'm glad you said it again because I don't want people to think, or I don't want men to think, oh well, that's a good thing. I should do that. No. Once you've established a relationship.
Yeah.
So once you're in a relationship, we can certainly go there. one of the things that makes me and women I've spoken to a lot feel safe is keep your word.
Oh, yeah.
Don't promise something that you can't do. And if something changes, tell us. Please tell us. And one of the things I learned, sometimes I get confused if it's John Gray or Allison Armstrong that talked about how men in the cave time, they made plans and they only told maybe a couple people because maybe the enemy would find out. And it's not that you think that we're the enemy, but you often don't share your plans as you're making them. You want to just like do the big ta-da at the end. And we're like, but what's the plan? What's the plan? What's the plan? So if you've established that I will let you know when I've got it all worked out and I'm said okay about that, and then you tell me that's what's going on, I'm taking it to the bank. And if something comes up and you're working on it, I need you to tell me. I need that. That's a big thing to me. So my husband and I had to work that out because he just wanted to go take care of it. And I go, just give me a heads up.
Yeah.
Because I'm a planner and I want to know there's change in the plans. I have to sort it out of my head. I have to regroup. It's just who I am. I had a planning company for 25 years. It's how my brain works. So maybe not everybody needs that, but if you know you need this, you need to explain it to the guy because generally you're just going to go take care of it. And then maybe you'll tell us later, or you'll just go, this is what we're doing now. So for me, I needed that extra step and it was important for me to say it out loud.
Yeah, that actually speaks into the piece I've said it so many times recently. It's come in conversations about how you can create and build trust.
Yeah.
Because part of feeling safe is to be able to trust somebody. That's kind of that goes hand in hand. And one of the things I've talked about this, I learned this many years ago in a seminar, probably back in the 80s. It's been a long time, but it still stands out for me because it's such a vivid piece of teaching. It is important that you keep your word and to keep your agreements with people. So what you said, and I want to expand that a little bit, because the thing about agreements is they are the ingredients that builds trust. Meaning that if you keep your agreements, people can trust you when you keep your agreements. If you don't keep your agreements, they can't trust you. It's that simple.
Very simple.
So the thing about agreements are there's certain different flavors in the way we do them and how we think of them. The problem with agreements is that people don't make them important enough. Because so they don't remember them, they don't keep track of them, they don't readjust for them. So here's some simple, and I learned this in a business seminar of all places, about how to keep your agreements working. Because a lot of people, unfortunately, maybe I know I did this as well. They're kind of yes men, like we're always going to say yes, always want to agree. So we'll agree to things we didn't think about, and then we forget about them, and then we get in trouble later for not remembering what we didn't agree, what we actually agreed to.
Because women remember everything.
Exactly. Exactly. Because we don't. So when it comes to keeping agreements, first of all, one of the problems is don't overcommit. So one of the simplest rules I've said so many times is when you make agreements, make less of them. It doesn't change how people respect you. In fact, it makes people respect you more because you keep every one of the agreements you do make. So instead of making 25 agreements, make 4, make 5. Make sure the agreements you can manage. So the other part of that, if you're making agreements, is you write them down so you can track them. Put them in your phone, if it's on a calendar, make a note somewhere so you remember them, whatever it is you need to do. So those agreements that you've made are trackable so you know what they are. Because the other part also is when you make agreements, that's when I have calendar software for my coaching. It means that people don't double book. Because the problem is if you don't keep track of stuff, you might double book and end up being screwed up because you have 2 different things going at the same time. You're not sure which one to focus on. So having fewer agreements is 1, writing them down is 2, so that you make sure that they're important enough so you keep track of them. Because the other part about writing them down is you make them important so you don't forget them. The third one, and this is kind of tied to the first one, making fewer agreements, is say no more often. Because again, quite a lot of us are programmed just to be nice to people and say yes to things more often than we need to, and we say yes to things we don't remember to keep track of. So say no, so you actually have less agreements. It's one of the biggest things about agreements is you don't want to have too many things on your plate that then you're going to get stressed out, worried or overdone because you're not trying to keep agreements with everything that's going on. It's okay to say no and to actually have space in your calendar, in your life. So that's another one too. On top of that, one more piece, one more piece is definitely, as you said, if plans change, let them know. If you've made agreements that you are unable to maintain or need to reschedule, communicate with the person you made the agreement with and say, can we renegotiate? Can we change that up? Because I realize that I can't do what I said I'd do when I said I'd do it. But the key thing is...
Beforehand.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do it at the time the event was supposed to happen. Do it beforehand with some lead time. You read my mind. Because it's so fundamental, the sense that is that we want to make sure that the agreements we've made stand up, and if they need to change, they stand up in the new position. Because every time that we keep an agreement and we fulfill an agreement that is a good one and valid, not they have to do so many, but each agreement we do maintain and keep, that builds trust, which then creates more safety. So as simple as these things are, they're fundamental to having more trust in your relationships and more safety between partners, because you can be dependent upon. Because the agreements you keep solidly. You say no to ones you don't want to keep, and that's great. And you renegotiate when you want to change them. That's foundational.
I love your 4 points. I love your 4 points. Because this is how a man can help a woman feel safe. If you consistently do those 4 things, then we consistently trust you.
Yes.
Because I'm sorry to say this, and it's the truth. Once you go down kind of far. I'm so wish it was different.
Mm-hmm.
Once is not just, men are much better about this. Once is this with men. Once with women is kind of this. So let's avoid that, because you can get back up again. It takes more work.
Right.
It takes way more work to fix it than to break it, to prevent breaking it. So let's prevent breaking it. Let's prevent moving you to a negative with this woman, because you men really, really get so much mental, emotional, physical benefits from doing things that we go, I like that. Do that again. I mean, it affects your whole, look at how you just smile when I say this. We go, I really appreciate you do this. I love you doing that. It makes me so happy. So if we can help tell you what personally we need and want, and then Barry and I keep telling you generally what women need and want, and you can do these things that feel kind of weird and different and really, because I would never do this for a guy friend, it will keep increasing this good feeling for both of you and help you feel closer to each other. Oh, it's got such long-ranging benefits.
Absolutely. And the thing is that it is something, when you get in the practice of doing it, it's easier and easier.
Yeah.
I had some powerful lessons way back that really taught me this lesson. And what I've noticed is that I'm still refining. This is the thing I'm still working on, is that I do have agreements that I make knowing I'm going to break them, because they're not agreements I don't put value in. So that's one of the things I'm trying to curtail doing that, because that was not good for me. That was because the other part of this, by the way, is that when you keep her agreements out in the world, not only do you make her feel safe and more trusting, you actually build your own self-esteem.
Yeah.
Things what happens is when we break agreements, we don't trust our word, so we end up failing ourselves. So that's why I'm adamant about agreement keeping with all my clients and all the work we do, because if you do that, it builds self-esteem inwardly and it builds respect outwardly. And so it's a vital part of the tools. The other piece I was going to say, though, is that this conversation about safety and trust and all the things we're talking about is, if you're talking about romantic relationship, unfortunately, there have been quite a few stories I've been reading online, and also I've had a couple of clients where they've been violated by their partner, where they haven't had the trust and safety. So if you're out there in relationships and you're not even thinking about this topic, become aware, because there are people who've been through situations, relationships, family dynamics, where trust and safety went out the window when they were very young or in a relationship. And so they don't know what it feels like, or they wish for someone they can really rely on, trust, and feel safe with. So learn these teachings, these tips, because in your dating life, on either side of the conversation, the more you know this stuff, the easier it gets to be in a position to have safety in your relationships and your communications.
And wow, yes, because we didn't really talk about, we talked in general what makes generally women feel safe. So women that have been abused or have been attacked or, some way really violated, they're going to need extra. I mean, hopefully they've gotten therapy and done a lot of their own personal work, because that's really essential. You can't ask for just a person that's not a professional and that's madly in love with you to completely fix that. I mean, really, you need to work on it yourself, just in general, going out in the world. And the other thing I was going to say is, our safety is very important to women. and that you're listening to what we're saying makes us safe is a very high value to us. And a really high value to men is that we trust you. You really want us to trust you, that you're a good guy, that your word is your bond, that you will have our back. So if both people have learned some lessons from what we've taught here and can use them with each other, both people will get these needs met. You'll get their, she really does trust me. And the woman will get, he's trustworthy. He really does have my back.
Yeah.
So the other thing I'm just going to mention, because it's come up so much this week, is if you don't do this, it chips away. And the worst thing it chips away with is you stop respecting each other.
Yes.
And lack of respect is the most deadly thing. It's come up so much lately with relationships. It's the biggest killer. Yeah. And I think the lack of trust, for whatever reason, misunderstandings, miscommunicating, he really did, or she really did, or he didn't, and she didn't. When it starts, the lack of respect starts going down, you are in such big trouble.
It's so hard to have healthy relationships, because trust, safety and trust go hand in hand. And those two components are really the underpinnings of what respect is based on.
Very much.
Because again, respect, as I said earlier about how your self-esteem increases when you keep agreements and you maintain your agreements. You get more respect from other people when you keep agreements. It's not just romantic. This is in business and in everything, social as well. The thing is, when somebody can count on you because you keep your word, that is a wonderful feeling. It's pretty clearly. And if you're a man and a woman and you're dating a woman and she can count on you to keep your word and keep your agreements, her respect for you just transforms and increases massively.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's like a plant and it keeps blooming. It's like you're giving it water and fertilizer and sun. And the same for the man. He blossoms even more. It's so fun to watch people. There's just an energy around people who really like each other and really respect each other. And, they have their ups and downs and they have tools for that, but generally they're doing good together. Just their energy together is so lovely to be around. I am just so drawn to them. I want to just stand next to them in line because you can feel it. And especially if you know them personally, you just want to hang out with them. And it's because they're doing this with and for each other, for yourself and for the other person. This is I was so excited about this subject because it's such a foundational piece.
Yeah.
In interactions between men and women in the world in general, and certainly in romantic relationships. When men and women get this part, there's no way you can't have a wonderful, solid relationship if it's the right person for you. But you can screw it up even if they're the most right person for you if either side doesn't get this part.
Yeah.
Don't you think? Haven't you seen that where you're like, oh, they could be so good together, but they're not doing this part?
I have seen relationships that looked on the outside to be perfect, more than one, quite a few in fact. But because of the behavior inside the relationship fell apart, and oftentimes because he did something that crossed the line where she couldn't trust him anymore.
Yep.
More often than not. I mean, women sometimes do, but rarely by comparison with men. Men have unfortunately become the less integrous of the partnership oftentimes by not giving the agreements, not making it feel safe. Because again, if you can't keep your word and can't be trustworthy, then she's not going to feel safe. So the relationship is going to suffer because of that. And there are some women I know who have gone, it's okay, we'll fix him, it'll get better, we'll give him another chance. That can only work so long. So to preempt that, again, all the stuff we're talking about in this episode, to remember to actually spend the time building your own self-support systems, which means keeping your word, building trust in yourself, honoring your own agreements. Those things will change your relationship to the world and also the relationship with the world to you. Yes. And particularly if you're dating as well.
Boy, because you work with generally only women and half my clients are women, one of the hardest things I hear is, well, I'm this really nice person. How come they're not nice back to me? If I do enough for them, they'll do it back for me. No. You start out saying, this is what's really important to me, and this is what would really make me happy. Can you do that? Can you be part of that? Can you step up? Because you don't just assume. If you keep assuming, you're not asking the other person to show you their best self, their best side, that they really can step up. Because there's people that can't, and you're like, gosh, it was nice meeting you. No, thank you.
Right. That's the thing is it's so interesting that it doesn't say it in the dating app, certainly on the profile descriptions, but it also doesn't say it when you go on a date with somebody or a coffee date, you meet somebody and ask them questions that are like this. It's like, why don't you ask the questions that are fundamental to your happiness?
Yes.
So,
That's what you and I teach, right?
Yeah. Ask the right questions, get the answer you need, so you know if you can trust this person, if you can be safe with them, if you can get what you want from them. Absolutely.
And can you spend another time with them? That's the whole point of meeting somebody the first time. How would you feel about spending another time with them? That's the whole reason you meet for the first time. Not to see if you have chemistry, not to see if you like the same food or the same movies. I mean, sure, you can find that out too. You need to find out, are they working on themselves? Are they doing important things? Are they excited about getting to know you? What kind of things have they learned in their past relationships that made them even a better person now? Are they just complaining about the other person? Boy, that's a no for me. Okay, I get that. And what part was yours? Because I'm owning my part. Yeah.
There we go.
Yep. So if you'd like to learn how to do any or all of that, Barry and I are really good at teaching it.
Indeed.
We got it in spades, right?
You learn the lessons, yes.
We personally learned the lesson, so now we can teach them.
Mm-hmm.
So the way to get a hold of me is initially through my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. And you can sign up for my newsletter. You can also schedule a complimentary conversation with me if you click on What's Holding You Back from Love. And then you can also reach me through my personal email, which is Christine@theperfectcatch.com. I'm happy to answer that at any moment. Then you can also sign up for any of my social media platforms, which is Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Pinterest. Those are the Christine Baumgartner. And then on YouTube, I'm at Coach Christine Baumgartner, and at, what's the other one? Instagram, I'm Christine Baumgartner. Complicated. I don't like being complicated, but it works for me.
Yeah, mine's a little bit easier, and plus
yours is so much easier.
It's only one change because of somebody hacked my account. So you want to check in, find out how to work with me, you can go to my website, which is barryselby.com, which is in the process of being redesigned at this moment. But by the time these episodes get aired, it might be done by then. We'll see. So on the homepage of my website, you can definitely join my email list, which is at the bottom of the screen. If you want to do that, at the top of the screen, there's an icon, there's a button to click on to have a mini session with me, so you can actually test drive my skills and see if you want to work together. So do that on my website again, which is barryselby.com. Also, my website, my book is on there. Yes, I have a best-selling book, a couple of various video series, coaching programs, other things as well. And also, if you want to drop me an email, you can just email me at barry@barryselby.com. And on my social media handles, as mentioned, pretty much all my name, which is Barry Selby. So YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Clubhouse, Pinterest, and Instagram is the only one that changed because it's now called The Real Barry Selby, but you can definitely follow me there as well. And by the way, YouTube is where I keep all the replays to this podcast, as well as all my other videos. And there's probably 1,500 videos up there now. So it'll keep you very busy if you want to watch those.
I know they could binge Barry.
Indeed, they can.
And Barry and I are here every Thursday at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern and all the times in between. And we love for you to watch us live, and you can submit comments after the fact. If you're watching this on streaming, please send comments or questions or subjects that you'd like us to cover in the future. We love that. And if you are doing great in your relationships and you have friends that tell you how terrible their relationship and they wish it was as happy as yours, please share this with them.
Absolutely. By the way, if you want to take us with you now, we are available. You can actually catch episodes on podcasts, on podcast platforms like Apple, Spotify, etc. So you can take us wherever you go. So you can definitely listen to us on your drives, hikes, walks, and other things you do with your life.
Such a good point, Mr. Hiker Walker Barry Selby.
That's what I think of it.
Yeah, I've never taken it on horseback. I'll have to think about that.
There you go. There's an idea.
Uh-huh.
So on that note, we'll see you next Thursday.
Bye for now.
Take care of yourselves.